Sometimes, the universe doesn't whisper. It screams. And if you're brave enough to listen, the truth has a way of rewriting everything you thought you knew about love, loyalty, and your own strength. The afternoon sun streamed through the stained glass windows of Gracewood Chapel, casting kaleidoscopic shadows across Sierra Morgan's wedding dress. She stood alone in the bridal suite, her 7 months pregnant belly gently curved beneath the carefully tailored ivory silk. Her fingers snapped together unconsciously, an old nervous habit. She had never broken it, even now as she stared into the antique mirror. The spring breeze of Oregon carried the scent of blooming lilacs through the slightly open window, a soothing contrast to the tightening knot in her stomach. As a social worker, Sierra had learned to trust her instincts. But today, those instincts were screaming at her to run. "Just pre-wedding jitters," she murmured, adjusting a strand of her chestnut hair that had escaped her practical updo. Her hazel eyes, usually so keen and clear, now held a flicker of doubt. She couldn't stop staring at the dress. Boho-inspired with vintage lace, it was everything she had ever wanted, even if she'd had to alter it to make room for her baby. A text buzzed her phone. "Can't wait to see you, beautiful." Jay Jasper's words should have soothed her, but instead, her fingers snapped twice more. The golden boy of their small Oregon town, with his perfect smile and immaculate suits, had swept her off her feet 2 years ago. Now he was minutes from becoming her husband and the father of her child. Sierra needed air. The tiny room had become stifling, the weight of expectations from her domineering mother, the town, and her own ideals pressing in from all sides. She slipped out of the bridal suite, carefully avoiding creases in her gown as she moved down the narrow hallway of the historic chapel. Voices filtered in from the garden, a man's laughter, then a high-pitched giggle that made her blood freeze. She recognized that laugh. As she rounded the corner, Sierra's world shattered in an agonizing slow motion. There, half hidden by the chapel's old elm tree, stood Jasper Thomas Carr. His blonde hair shimmered in the light. His eyes were closed in passion as he kissed Harper Morgan, Sierra's cousin, whose dyed red hair and snug bridesmaid's dress clung to him like she belonged there. Time stopped. Sierra's hand instinctively moved to her belly, shielding her unborn child from a truth too sharp to absorb. Her throat tightened, but her legs locked, keeping her rooted in place, forcing her to see every devastating second. The way Jasper's hands tangled in Harper's hair, the familiar tilt of his head, the casual intimacy of a long-term affair. When they finally pulled apart, it was Harper who spotted her first. Her lips, perfectly painted, formed an O of surprise, and her hand shot to her mouth, an overly dramatic gesture that might have been funny any other day. "Sierra." Jasper's voice cracked as he turned, his polished demeanor crumbling for the first time since she'd known him. "This isn't, let me explain." But Sierra's thoughts had already surged ahead. She began connecting the dots she'd been too blind to see. The late-night texts, the times they'd vanished together during family events. The way Harper had insisted on being her maid of honor, despite their awkward and distant relationship. Sierra's body trembled, but when her voice finally emerged, it was calm. Cold, steady. "How long?" Neither of them answered. The silence screamed everything. And in that moment, something inside Sierra snapped into place. The chaos she had always struggled to contain with compassion and logic now hardened into crystalline clarity. She looked at Jasper, really looked at him, and no longer saw the charming local hero of their Oregon town, but a man hollow behind his flawless exterior. "The guests are waiting," she said, her tone eerily composed. "We shouldn't disappoint them." "Sierra, please." Harper stepped forward, mascara streaking down her face. "I never meant." "Save it." Sierra cut her off, turning toward the chapel once more. Her footsteps carried her forward, not to a ceremony, but to freedom. Behind her, she heard Jasper's designer shoes crunching on the gravel as he rushed after her, but for the first time since she'd met him, she wasn't stopping. Her fingers snapped again, not out of anxiety this time, but certainty. Today, she would say her vows, not to Jasper, not to the image she'd been trying to live up to, but to herself, to the child growing inside her. And she would mean every word. The heavy wooden doors of Gracewood Chapel groaned as they opened, and every head turned to witness the bride's arrival. The string quartet launched into the wedding march, a melody now warped into something bittersweet, twisted beneath Sierra's firm stride. Her mother, Donna, beamed from the front pew, utterly unaware of the storm about to shatter her carefully curated vision of the day. Each breath Sierra took felt like frost in her lungs. The faces of friends and family blurred into indistinct shapes as she walked. She could sense Jasper behind her, probably fixing his tie, repairing his practiced image. The very thought made her stomach churn. Pastor Whitaker waited at the altar, Bible in hand, his lined face creased into a kindly smile. The same man who had patiently guided them through premarital counseling, never guessing at the rot hidden beneath their glossy facade. Sierra's fingers snapped once at her side, drawing curious glances from nearby guests. She reached the first step of the altar and turned, not toward her groom. Jasper froze mid-step, confusion washing over his perfectly structured face. In the third row, Harper squirmed, her bouquet trembling slightly in her hands. "I've always believed in truth," Sierra's voice rang out, clear and resolute, surprising even herself. "As a social worker, I tell my clients that healing begins with honesty. Today, I need to take my own advice." A ripple of murmurs stirred through Gracewood Chapel. Her mother, Donna, started to rise, mouth opening in protest, but Sierra didn't pause. 10 minutes ago," she continued, "I found my fiancé kissing my cousin behind this very chapel." The words hit the room like stones cast into still water, sending shockwaves rippling through the crowd. And judging by their gasps and stunned faces, this wasn't the first time suspicions had simmered. Jasper stepped forward, his polished charm flicking on like a spotlight. "Sierra, sweetheart, you're upset. It's the pregnancy stress." "Don't you dare!" Sierra's voice sliced through the air like a blade. "Don't you dare turn this into hormones or stress or whatever convenient excuse you've rehearsed." She turned toward him fully, one hand resting over her belly, protective and grounded. "You know what's strange, Jasper? I actually feel calmer than I've felt in months. Maybe because, for the first time, I'm seeing you clearly." In the pews, Harper had begun to cry, mascara streaming down her cheeks. Several guests were already discreetly pulling out their phones, eager to feed the gossip mill of their small Oregon town. Donna had collapsed back into her seat, face buried in her hands. "I spent 2 years trying to mold myself to fit into your perfect world," Sierra continued, her hazel eyes locked onto Jasper's now panicked expression. "Softening my voice, shrinking my opinions, believing that if I worked hard enough, I could be worthy of the golden boy who picked me." She gave a short, dry laugh, no trace of amusement. "But that's the thing about golden boys, isn't it? Scratch the surface, and more often than not, it's fool's gold underneath." Jasper's mask finally cracked. "You're making a scene," he hissed, reaching for her arm. Sierra stepped out of reach. "I am thinking about our child, about the example I want to set, about every time I ignored my gut because your explanations were so smooth, so reasonable, about how you made me believe my instincts were just insecurity." She turned back to the stunned crowd. "I won't be getting married today. Not to a man who could kiss my cousin minutes before our vows, not to someone who values appearances more than integrity." The chapel was silent, airless. Sierra unclasped the delicate pearl necklace Jasper had given her, a supposed family heirloom, and placed it gently on the altar. Her fingers snapped twice, like a punctuation mark. "The reception at the Maple Hollow Lodge is still paid for," she said, her practical side showing through. "Please enjoy the food and drinks. Think of it not as a wedding celebration, but a celebration of truth." And with that, Sierra Morgan turned and walked back down the aisle, her head held high. The whispers trailed after her like autumn leaves caught in a gust, but Sierra didn't flinch as she reached the chapel doors. Behind her, she could still hear Harper's distinctive sobbing and Jasper's scrambling attempts to restore order. But she never looked back. The Oregon spring air greeted her like a rebirth, crisp and cool, laced with the scent of rain and lilacs. Her meticulously imagined future lay in tatters behind her, but ahead, something far more precious waited. Freedom. 3 days after walking out of her own wedding, Sierra sat in the sterile waiting room of Cascade Valley Community Health Center. Her fingers snapped in rhythm as she stared down at her phone. 47 missed calls, 93 texts, a dozen voicemails. The digital shrapnel from her public reckoning lay sprawled across her screen. Her mother's most recent message glowed accusingly. "You're being dramatic. Think about the baby. Jasper's family had clout in this town, as if she needed reminding. The Carr family name was etched onto half the buildings within a 5-mile radius. The clinic buzzed with early morning noise, a welcome distraction. She had transferred her prenatal care here, 30 minutes outside her hometown, to escape the judgment-filled hallways of the local clinic. Her former OBGYN had played golf every Thursday with Jasper's father. Another thread of that life she needed to sever. "Miss Morgan?" a nurse called, breaking her thoughts. "Dr. Rhodes will see you now." Sierra rose, clutching her purse, her flat silent against the linoleum as she followed the nurse down the hallway. Her wedding dress still hung in its garment bag at home, a haunting presence she hadn't yet been able to face. The office door opened, revealing a tall man with dark hair and intense gray eyes. His white coat was sharply pressed over a charcoal knit sweater. Dr. Cassian Rhodes stood from behind his desk with a fluid, deliberate grace. "Miss Morgan," he said, his voice quiet but commanding. "I'm Dr. Rhodes. I've reviewed your transfer file from Dr. Peterson's office." He gestured for her to sit. Sierra eased herself into the chair, noticing the sparse decor. No family photos, just a neat row of medical journals and a silver pen holder. His left hand moved across the chart, the wedding ring he wore glinting briefly beneath the fluorescence. "You're at 28 weeks, he noted, his tone calm but warm. "Have you experienced any unusual symptoms since your last appointment?" Sierra let out a bitter, unexpected laugh. "Besides catching my fiancé cheating with my cousin and calling off my wedding mid-ceremony? Nope, nothing too unusual." Dr. Rhodes looked up. His eyes met hers. No judgment, no pity, just steady presence. "That qualifies as significant emotional stress," he replied evenly. "How are you sleeping?" "I'm not," she admitted. Her fingers snapped again, once. "Every time I close my eyes, I see them. The guests, my mother, Harper." Her voice faltered. He made a quick note in her file, his handwriting precise. "Emotional stress can impact pregnancy. We'll be monitoring your blood pressure closely." He paused, choosing his words with care. "Have you considered talking to someone? We have excellent counselors on staff." "I'm a social worker," Sierra said, the defensive tone creeping into her voice. "I know all about trauma, processing, and self-care." "Then you know," he replied gently, "that practitioners often make the worst patients." Something in his voice hinted at personal experience. The simple truth of his statement caught her off guard, and her fingers stilled mid-snap. "I'm not here to push," Dr. Rhodes added, his eyes returning to her chart. "But as your physician, I need you to understand that your emotional well-being has a direct effect on your baby's health. Whatever support system you build, now is the time to start." Sierra studied him as he reviewed her vitals. His movements were methodical, almost ceremonial. She noticed the subtle way he turned his wedding ring while he read, not like a symbol of partnership, but like a ghost he couldn't quite exorcise. A sign of loss, not love. "The father," she found herself saying, "he's already trying to assert his rights. His family's lawyer contacted me yesterday." Dr. Rhodes set his pen down and gave her his full attention. "That's not a medical issue, but it is a stressor, and we need to factor it in. Are you working with a lawyer?" "Not yet," she said, her hand instinctively moving to her belly. "Everything happened so fast, I never thought I'd be doing this alone." "You're not alone," he said matter-of-factly. "You have medical support here. Legal resources too, if you need them. The decision is yours." For the first time in days, Sierra felt her shoulders ease just a little. Dr. Rhodes's steady presence was like a cold compress on fevered skin. Not a cure, but something that helped. The rest of the appointment blurred into a series of medical terms and scheduling notes. As Sierra rose to leave, Dr. Rhodes handed her a small card. "My direct line," he said. "Pregnancy doesn't follow office hours. Neither do emergencies, physical or emotional." She took the card, noting the surprising warmth of his hand when their fingers brushed. "Thank you, Dr. Rhodes." "Cassian," he corrected gently, then looked momentarily surprised at himself. "For after-hours calls." She nodded and tucked the card into her purse. As she walked out of the office, she realized her fingers hadn't snapped once. Small progress. But progress. Meanwhile, Harper Morgan stood in front of her bathroom mirror, robotically applying another coat of mascara. Her dyed red hair was perfectly curled, her outfit carefully styled, but her hands wouldn't stop shaking. She bit her lower lip, a nervous habit that had left permanent marks, and stared at her reflection. The fluorescent lights at the local pharmacy had felt like interrogation beams earlier that morning as she picked up her endometriosis prescription. Mrs. Hadley, the elderly pharmacist, had barely met her eyes. Word spread fast in small-town Oregon. Homewrecker. The whispers followed Harper like burrs, each syllable prickling beneath her skin. Her phone buzzed. Another message from Jasper. We need to talk. Everything's falling apart. Harper deleted the message without replying. The past week had been a landslide of consequences. Jasper's family law firm was hemorrhaging clients. His father's political influence was faltering. The perfect image Jasper had spent years constructing, unraveling. The irony wasn't lost on her. For months she'd convinced herself their affair meant something deeper. Love, maybe. A connection. Now, watching him flail to protect his reputation, she saw the truth. She had been disposable. Just like the tissues she kept using to wipe away the tears she told no one about. A sudden cramp doubled her over. She grabbed the edge of the bathroom counter to steady herself. The endometriosis always flared under stress, her body's cruel way of punishing her further. The words of her doctor from years ago echoed in her mind. Pregnancy will be extremely unlikely. That line had stained every relationship, poisoned every dream, made every glance at Sierra's growing belly a dagger to the heart. The doorbell rang, yanking her from the spiral. She checked the peephole. Her aunt, Donna, stood on the porch, arms crossed, lips pursed. Harper's heart pounded as she opened the door. Well, Donna said, voice dripping with cold disdain, you've really outdone yourself this time. Harper stepped aside to let her in. Donna's eyes swept over the small, cluttered apartment, taking in the half-packed boxes. Running away, she observed. How predictably Harper of you. I got a job offer in Portland, Harper said weakly. It's a better opportunity. Better than wrecking your cousin's wedding? I would hope so. Donna's perfectly manicured nails tapped against her purse. Do you even understand what you've done? To this family? To Sierra's future? Harper's fingers drifted to her lips again, chewing the same scarred spot. I never meant. You never mean to do anything, Donna snapped. Just like you never meant to drop out of college, or max out your dad's credit cards, or sleep with your cousin's fiancé. Each word struck like a slap. Harper sank onto the couch. The same couch where Jasper had first kissed her 8 months ago. She'd been sobbing about yet another failed relationship, another doctor's confirmation that pregnancy was unlikely. Jasper had listened, hand gently on her knee. One moment of weakness became a months-long secret of stolen meetings and whispered promises. Sierra's filing a restraining order, Donna announced, her tone laced with satisfaction. Against both you and Jasper. She stepped forward, voice rising. She's also looking for a new job, thanks to your little scandal tanking her professional reputation. Guilt surged through Harper like a tide. She shouldn't have to leave her job. I'm the one who... The one who what? Donna snapped. Betrayed her? Humiliated her? Made her the centerpiece of every gossip session from here to Salem? You know what makes it worse? Donna said, her voice low but biting. She's actually defending you to the family, saying you need help, not punishment. That's the cousin you betrayed. Harper's makeup was ruined now. Mascara carved dark paths down her cheeks. Another cramp seized her and she folded inward, arms clutching her midsection. Donna's sharp expression softened, if only slightly. Are you still seeing that specialist for your condition? I can't afford it anymore, Harper whispered. The new insurance doesn't cover it. Stop. Donna raised a hand, silencing her. I don't want your excuses. I came to tell you to stay away from Sierra. She needs peace. She needs to focus on her baby. Donna reached into her purse and pulled out an envelope. Your mother asked me to give you this. Apparently, she can't bring herself to face you either. The envelope landed on the coffee table between them. Harper didn't need to open it to know it was filled with money, her mother's go-to fix for anything uncomfortable. I'm leaving town, Harper said quietly. You don't have to worry about me making things worse. Donna turned toward the door, then hesitated. You know what's really sad? You could have had a sister in Sierra. Instead, you'll always be the cautionary tale we whisper about at holidays. After she left, Harper remained on the couch, surrounded by half-packed boxes and suffocating silence. Her phone buzzed again. Another message from Jasper. This one asking if she'd talked to any reporters. She blocked the number without hesitation. In the bathroom, her reflection stared back. Lipstick smudged from nervous biting, mascara smeared like war paint. And finally, Harper saw what everyone else did, a broken woman trying to fill her emptiness by stealing someone else's joy. The late afternoon sun stretched golden shadows through the windows of Dr. Rhodes's office as Sierra sat on the exam table for her weekly prenatal checkup. Her blood pressure had just come back, high. Cassian's frown deepened, and her fingers snapped once, an automatic response to stress. "These numbers aren't where I'd like them to be," he said, updating her chart with steady precision. "The stress from the legal situation is clearly taking a toll." Sierra let out a long breath, trying to release the weight that clung to her. Jasper's lawyer sent another letter. "They're pushing for joint custody before the baby's even born." Her voice cracked. "They're trying to paint me as unstable because I walked away from the wedding." Cassian put his pen down, meeting her eyes. "Medically speaking, stress at this level can be dangerous for both of you. Have you considered getting away? Even temporarily, just to ease the pressure?" "And go where?" She gestured toward her prominent belly. "I'm 30 weeks pregnant. This isn't exactly vacation season." "Portland has excellent maternal facilities," he said quietly, "and fewer painful memories." Their eyes held for a beat longer than usual. Something unspoken passed between them. Recognition, maybe, or the acknowledgement of a connection neither had dared name. Over the past few weeks, their professional rapport had slowly evolved into something more personal, more present. Cassian absently turned his wedding ring. That same familiar motion that spoke more of mourning than marriage. "I have colleagues at Portland Medical Center," he added. "I could refer you to." "No," Sierra interrupted, surprising them both with the force in her voice. "I mean, I trust you, Dr. Rhodes, Cassian." His first name felt almost too intimate on her tongue. "You're the only person who sees me as more than just a headline." Cassian stood and moved toward the window. The setting sun bathed his profile in soft amber light as he spoke. "When my wife died," he began, his voice calm, deliberate, "everyone had an opinion about how I should grieve, how fast I should move forward. Their expectations became another weight to carry." Sierra held her breath. It was the first time he had spoken about his wife directly. "She developed complications during delivery," he continued, eyes still on the horizon. "I was her doctor. I missed the signs. By the time I realized, it was too late." His hand instinctively reached for his ring again. "That's why I left Boston. Every hallway there was a memory I couldn't bear to relive." "I'm so sorry," Sierra whispered, and she meant it. It finally made sense why he was so determined to monitor her stress levels. He turned back to face her, slipping into his professional composure like armor. "My point is, sometimes distance isn't running away. Sometimes it's the space you need to begin healing." Sierra's hands drifted to her belly, feeling the faint movements of her child. "My whole life is here," she murmured. "My job, my apartment. All things that can be rebuilt," he replied gently. "The real question is, what do you want?" The room went still. The question echoed louder than anything either had said. For weeks she had reacted to Jasper's betrayal, to Donna's judgment, to the town's whispers. But when had she last made a decision for herself? "I want," she said, her voice stronger, clearer, "my baby to be born in a place without all this baggage. I want to work somewhere that my clients don't whisper about me in the halls. I want—" Her eyes locked with Cassian's. "I want to stop feeling like a victim and start feeling like me again." He nodded slowly, understanding in his gaze. "I can make a few calls," he said. "There's a women's health clinic in Portland looking for a social worker. And I know a realtor who helps with short-term rentals for medical transitions." "You've thought about this before," Sierra said, a small smile tugging at her lips. "I think about a lot of things," he admitted, then quickly added, "as your doctor." The qualifier felt strained, like he was reminding himself more than her. Sierra stood and gathered her purse, suddenly aware of how close the air felt between them. "Thank you," she said quietly, "for seeing me, not just the woman who walked out of her wedding." Cassian's hand twitched, like he might reach for her, but then fell to his side. "Same time next week?" he asked. "Actually." Sierra straightened, a new sense of clarity forming in her spine. "Next week." I might need recommendations for OBs in Portland, Sierra said, then added more hesitantly, unless you're considering a change of scenery too. The boldness of her words caught even her off guard, but somehow it felt right. Cassian's usually composed expressions slipped for a split second, revealing a flicker of emotion that mirrored her own. That would be, unprofessional, he replied. So is the way you look at me when you think I'm not watching, she said gently. Before he could respond, she turned toward the door. At the threshold, she paused. Sometimes, Dr. Rhodes, healing isn't just about space. Sometimes it's about letting yourself feel again. Then she walked out, leaving him in the glow of the setting sun, which painted his office in tones of change and possibility. For the first time in weeks, her fingers didn't snap. Sierra was finishing packing the last of her office belongings when Jasper appeared in the doorway. His normally pristine suit couldn't mask the desperation clinging to him. His once flawless hair was disheveled, showing signs of anxious finger-combing. "You're really leaving?" he said. It wasn't a question. His icy blue eyes swept over the scene. The cardboard boxes, the blank walls where her diplomas had once hung. Her fingers twitched to snap, but she forced them still. At 31 weeks pregnant, she refused to let him rattle her. "My lawyer already gave yours my new address in Portland," she said evenly, "though I'm surprised you came in person, instead of sending another threat." "This isn't about lawyers." Jasper stepped fully into the office, closing the door behind him. "This is about us, about the baby." "There is no us," Sierra said, continuing to pack, "and this baby will have me. That's enough." His polished composure fractured slightly. A single mother, new job, new city, living off a social worker's salary? Be realistic. She carefully set down the diploma she'd been wrapping, heat rising in her chest. Realistic? You mean better than being raised by a mother who values truth? Better than a home where no one's lying to themselves or each other? Her voice stayed level, even as her fingers snapped, once, then twice. "Or do you mean better things like your family's money and name?" He scoffed. "Don't act like you didn't know who I was when you said yes. The car name means something here." "Yeah," she said sharply. "It means corruption covered by donations, affairs behind perfect smiles, control masked as concern." She met his gaze head-on. "I'm done with masks, Jasper." He stepped closer, and for the first time she saw it. Fear. Real fear. "You think you can just walk away? Start over?" Jasper's voice sharpened, rising. "My family built this town. We've got connections everywhere. Are you threatening me?" Sierra asked, her tone cool and flat. "I'm trying to make you see reason." His volume ticked higher. "This pregnancy is the only reason people are still talking to me. My father's political career is collapsing. Our top clients are bailing. I need—" He stopped himself, but not before Sierra saw the truth in his eyes. "You need the baby to fix your image," she finished for him, disgust dripping from every word. "That's what this custody battle is about, isn't it? Not love, not responsibility, just damage control for the Golden Boy's redemption arc." "Don't be dramatic. I'm offering a chance to fix this," he insisted. "We can present a united front. Give our child the life they deserve." Sierra laughed, a sharp, humorless sound. "The life they deserve?" She straightened, facing him fully. "Let me tell you what they deserve. They deserve honesty. They deserve to see their mother stand up for herself. They deserve better than watching their father lie, manipulate, and twist reality for image and power." "And what about you?" Jasper's voice turned silky, dangerous. "Does Dr. Rhodes make house calls in Portland?" The threat was thinly veiled, and her blood ran cold. "Leave him out of this." "Oh, I've done my research," he said with a sneer. "Big career in Boston until his wife died under his care. Medical board cleared him, sure, but you know how rumors resurface." "You wouldn't dare." "Try me," he hissed. His face was no longer handsome, it was twisted with venom. "You're not the only one who can destroy someone's life." In that moment, Sierra saw him for who he truly was. Not the charming man she once said yes to, but a wounded narcissist whose love had always been about power and control. "Go ahead," she said quietly, her hand resting protectively on her belly. "Spread your rumors. Smear an innocent man's name. Show the world exactly who you are." "I'm trying to protect our family." "No. You're trying to protect yourself." She picked up the last box from her desk. "And you just reminded me exactly why I'm leaving. My lawyer will be in touch with yours about the restraining order." She moved past him toward the door. It's over, Jasper. The wedding, the lies, your grip on me, all of it. At the threshold, she stopped and turned back one final time. And if you ever try to use our child as a pawn in your PR recovery again, I won't just expose the affair. I'll expose everything I know about your family's business practices. Every file I accessed while I was still wearing your ring. I kept copies. His face turned ashen. You wouldn't. Try me. Then she walked out, head held high. In the car, her hands trembled as she pulled out her phone. There were 2 calls she needed to make, one to her lawyer, the other to Cassian, to warn him of the storm heading his way. But beneath the anxiety, something steadier thudded inside her. Strength. For the first time since the wedding day, Sierra realized she wasn't running from something. She was running toward herself. Dr. Cassian Rhodes sat in his darkened office long after hours, the soft blue light of his computer screen reflecting in his tired eyes. Case files were spread before him, files he'd read 100 times. His wife's case, the medical board investigation, the official exoneration documents. They were all spread across Dr. Rhodes's desk now. Pages he hadn't looked at in years, reopened like old wounds. Sierra's warning echoed in his mind. He's going to try to destroy your reputation, she'd said on the phone. Her voice had been tight, angry. Not for herself, but for him, because of me. His fingers moved to the edge of his wedding ring, a habit born from the darkest months of his life after losing Claire. The investigation had nearly broken him. Not because he feared being found negligent. He knew he had done everything medically possible, but because each hearing forced him to relive those final moments, defending his clinical judgment while privately drowning in grief. A soft knock interrupted the spiral. He looked up. Sierra stood in the doorway, one hand bracing her lower back, the other clutching a paper cup. The scent of chamomile floated into the room. Your nurse said you were still here, she said gently. Working late or hiding? Both, perhaps, he replied, gesturing toward the chair across from his desk. You should be resting. The move to Portland is tomorrow. She eased into the chair with a quiet sigh. I couldn't rest knowing. Her fingers snapped once. Cassian, I'm so sorry. You don't deserve to have your past dragged into this. You've read my wife's file, he said, catching the way she glanced at the documents on his screen. Yes, she replied, locking eyes with him. And the board's full clearance. You did everything you could to save her. Did I? The question slipped from his lips before he could catch it. A doubt he had never admitted aloud. I was her doctor, and her husband. Maybe that blinded me. Maybe. Stop, Sierra cut in, her voice firm. I've watched you for weeks, triple-checking every test, every detail. You're not just cautious, you're haunted. And that's why I trust you, with my baby's life. Her words struck like a pulse, visceral and grounding. She didn't just see the methodical doctor. She saw the man molded by grief and guilt. Jasper will try to twist the narrative, Cassian said quietly. Make my wife's death seem like malpractice instead of heartbreak. Even if I'm cleared again, the process alone could cripple my practice. Then we fight back. She leaned forward, eyes sharp with purpose. You're not alone in this. I've got documents, proof of the Carr family's corruption. If Jasper wants a war, he's going to learn exactly what kind of damage a social worker's salary worth of evidence can do. Cassian studied her face, the fire in her, the protectiveness, the defiance. When was the last time someone had stood up to protect him? You should focus on your move, Cassian said quietly. Your health, your baby. That's why I'm here. Sierra reached across the desk, her hand resting over his. You've been my shelter in this storm, Cassian. Let me be yours. The warmth of her touch jolted something in him. His wedding ring suddenly felt heavy, like the past pressing down on his skin. I can't lose another patient, he admitted, his voice hoarse. I can't fail another woman. He didn't finish. But the silence between them spoke clearly. Care about me? Sierra said softly, filling in the unspoken truth. He turned his hand under hers, their fingers intertwining, hesitantly at first. Professional ethics, age gap, timing, he murmured. Valid reasons, she acknowledged gently, but still just excuses. What are you really afraid of? The question pierced through his carefully built defenses. Being happy again, he whispered. It feels like betrayal, doesn't it? Sierra's other hand moved to her belly just as her baby kicked. But life doesn't betray death by continuing, Cassian. Your wife's story ended in tragedy, but that doesn't mean yours has to. She gave his hand a final squeeze and stood. I'm leaving for Portland tomorrow. I found an apartment near the women's health clinic, the one you recommended. They're still looking for an experienced OB/GYN. Her words weren't just information. They were an invitation. Change location. Change specialty. Change everything. I can't just run, he said, though his voice lacked conviction. No, she agreed as she moved toward the door. But you can walk toward something new. The choice is yours. She left, and Cassian sat in the dim light of his office, surrounded by the ghosts of his past. The glow of the desk lamp caught on his wedding ring. Slowly, deliberately, he turned it once, then slid it off. He didn't put it back on. Harper's hands trembled as she stared at the pregnancy test on the bathroom counter. 3 tests. 3 pink lines. Each one a cruel joke against everything she'd been told was impossible. Her teeth sank into her lower lip until she tasted blood. The cramps had been intensifying over the past week. Pain she'd blamed on stress and endometriosis. But now, sitting on the cold tile floor of her half-packed apartment, reality washed over her in crashing waves. She was pregnant, with Jasper's child. Her phone buzzed. Another message from him, the 7th today. She hadn't answered since their last fight, when he'd blamed her for mishandling the affair, as if there was a right way to destroy your cousin's life. The irony clawed at her chest. For years, doctors had told her that pregnancy would be next to impossible. She had watched Sierra's growing belly with a cocktail of envy and despair. Now she had managed to create something even worse than betrayal. The apartment doorbell rang, snapping Harper out of her spiral. Through tear-blurred eyes, she glanced through the peephole, expecting an angry relative. Instead, it was Sierra. Harper's heart stopped. Her cousin stood in the hallway, 32 weeks pregnant, one hand pressed to her lower back. She looked tired, but stronger, like someone who had faced the fire and walked through it. With trembling fingers, Harper opened the door. How did you know I was still here? Your car's outside, Sierra replied, her voice calm and controlled. Can I come in? Standing for long isn't easy these days. Harper stepped aside, suddenly hyper-aware of the disarray, the half-packed boxes, laundry piles, the evidence of a life in free fall. The chaos mirrored her inner state. I thought the restraining order hasn't been filed yet, Sierra said as she lowered herself onto the couch with a groan. I'm leaving for Portland tomorrow, but before that we need to talk. I'm sorry. The words rushed out of Harper like a dam breaking. I know it doesn't change anything, doesn't excuse what I did, but I'm so sorry. I know, Sierra said, her green eyes locked onto hers. You're also pregnant? Harper sank into a nearby chair, her face pale with shock. How? I'm a social worker, Harper. I know the signs. Morning sickness, the exhaustion, plus there's an open pregnancy test box in your trash. Fresh tears streamed down Harper's cheeks, smudging the makeup she'd tried so hard to perfect. The doctor said it was impossible with my condition, she whispered, pressing a hand to her abdomen. I never thought. Does Jasper know? No one knows, she said, voice breaking. I just found out. I can't tell him. He'd twist it, just like he's trying to twist yours. He'd use it like a trophy, a PR stunt. Sierra's fingers snapped once. Processing. What do you want to do? Harper gave a bitter laugh. What can I do? I'm the villain, remember? The home-wrecking cousin. If people find out. She bit her lip again, the familiar copper tang of blood hitting her tongue. Stop that, Sierra said sharply. Stop playing the victim. You have choices. Stop hiding behind guilt and face what you've done and what you're going to do next. The words hit harder than any slap. For the first time, Harper really looked at her cousin, really saw her. The strength it had taken to walk away from Jasper, to start over, to heal. I'm leaving too, Harper said in a whisper. I got a job in New York, social media marketing for a small firm. I was going to disappear without saying anything. Running won't fix you, Sierra replied, her tone softening. Trust me, I know. I'm not running from Oregon, Harper said. I'm running towards something better. There's a difference. How do you do it? Harper asked, voice breaking again. How do you stay so strong? I'm not strong, Sierra said, standing with effort. I'm just done pretending. She walked to the door, then paused with her hand on the knob. Get help, Harper. Real help. Therapy. Support groups. Whatever it takes. Deal with your trauma so you don't pass it on to someone else. Then, before opening the door, she added, "And tell Jasper about the baby. Not for him. He doesn't deserve that consideration," Sierra said, "but secrets have a way of poisoning everything they touch." She opened the door, then turned back one last time. "I don't forgive you. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But I do hope you find peace. Real peace, not just another mask to hide behind." After she left, Harper sat amidst boxes and broken illusions. One hand rested gently on her still flat stomach, running toward something better. The words echoed, heavy and insistent. With trembling fingers, she picked up her phone and typed, "Prenatal care, New York City endometriosis specialists." It wasn't redemption. Not yet, but it could be a beginning. The autumn rain lashed against the windows of Portland Women's Health Center as Sierra gripped the edge of the examination table. Her contractions were coming faster than they should. 34 weeks was too soon. Her fingers snapped rapidly, a frantic rhythm mirroring her pulse. "Blood pressure's too high," the nurse muttered urgently. "We need Dr. Rhodes." "He's in a board meeting," another nurse replied. "They're voting on his appointment as director of maternal care." Sierra fought to focus through the haze of pain. She'd only been in Portland for 2 weeks. The apartment still had boxes scattered across the floor. Cassian was still balancing work between 2 clinics. Everything was happening too fast. The door slammed open. Jasper burst in, rain-soaked and furious. "Where is she?" he demanded. "You can't keep me from my child." "Sir, you need to leave," the first nurse said firmly. "There's a restraining order in place." "To hell with that," he shouted. His polished mask had finally cracked, revealing a man unraveling at the seams. "I have rights." Another contraction slammed into Sierra, pulling a scream from her throat. The monitors spiked with warning beeps. "Get security," the nurse ordered. But before anyone could move, a voice cut through the chaos. "Stop." All heads turned. Harper stood in the doorway behind Jasper. Her voice was calm but sharp as steel. "Your rights," she said. "What about the rights of your other child?" Jasper spun around. He froze. Harper stood tall, hand protectively cradling her slightly rounded belly. That's impossible," he stammered. You said you couldn't." "Well," Harper said, her voice steady despite the way her lip trembled. "Apparently, the impossible happens." She took a step forward. "Congratulations, Jasper. You've managed to get both cousins pregnant. Quite the achievement, especially for someone so obsessed with public image." The beeping from Sierra's monitor grew louder. Sierra could feel it. Something was wrong. Cassian's warnings echoed in her mind. Stress, blood pressure, risk. Get them out. She gasped between contractions. "Please." As if summoned by her voice, Cassian appeared in the doorway. In a single glance, he assessed the chaos, and then his calm professionalism shifted into steel. "Mr. Carr," he said, his voice slicing through the tension like a scalpel, "you have exactly 30 seconds to leave before security arrests you for violating a restraining order and endangering a patient." "You," Jasper snarled, whirling toward him. "This is your fault. If you hadn't." 20 seconds? Cassian cut in, already at Sierra's side, checking monitors, adjusting fluids. "Make your choice. You can't threaten me. My fan has bigger problems." Harper interrupted coldly. "The DA's office received a very interesting package this morning. It's amazing what guilt can motivate someone to send." Jasper's face twisted in disbelief. "You didn't." "She didn't." "I did," Sierra said through clenched teeth. "My parting gift to Oregon." The security team finally arrived, 2 officers filling the doorway. Jasper's eyes darted around, looking for control he no longer held. For a moment, it looked like he might fight. Then his shoulders slumped. The polished mask cracked. "This isn't over," he muttered as the officers led him away. Harper lingered in the doorway. "I'm sorry," she said softly. "When I heard him ranting at his lawyer's office about coming here, I had to stop him." "Go with security," Cassian ordered, not looking up. "Make sure he's off the premises." Once they were gone, the room went quiet again, save for the steady beep of monitors and the rhythmic tap of rain against the windows. "I'm here," Cassian whispered, his hand finding Sierra's. "Focus on my voice. We're going to get your blood pressure down." "Our first crisis together," she managed a faint smile. "How are we doing?" "You're doing amazingly," he said, gray eyes locked on hers, unwavering, "and I'm exactly where I need to be." Her next contraction wasn't as sharp. The medication was working. She blinked, remembering. "The board meeting, your appointment." Can wait, he said, squeezing her hand. Some things matter more than titles, like keeping a promise, to be here, no matter what. The beeping monitor began to steady. Her blood pressure slowly dropped. Outside, the rain kept falling, rinsing away the remnants of the life she had walked away from. But here, with Cassian's hand in hers, and their future unspooling in front of them, Sierra felt it. Peace. The storm had broken, and together they would weather whatever came next. 6 months later, spring returned to Oregon. But this time, Sierra watched it from the warmth of her Portland apartment. Through the wide windows, she could see the Willamette River glinting in the distance. Finally free of ice, Sierra cradled her daughter, Luna Grace Rhodes, in her arms. The baby cooed softly, her tiny hand reaching out mid-nap, trying to wrap her fingers around her mother's. Just like her mama, focused, Cassian said from the kitchen, where he was carefully preparing Luna's bottle. He approached domesticity the same way he did medicine, with exactness. Formula measured down to the milliliter. Timing exact. Calm, efficient, and somehow still full of heart. "Did you see the news?" Sierra asked, accepting the bottle he handed her. "Jasper's father lost the election. Looks like those financial documents made quite the impression." Cassian joined her on the couch, settling beside her with ease. His hand reached down to smooth Luna's soft, dark curls, still with a doctor's instinct, but now touched with a father's tenderness. "And how do you feel about that?" he asked. Sierra thought for a moment as Luna drank eagerly. Relieved, not because it's revenge, but because the truth mattered. Luna will grow up knowing that. Her phone buzzed. A new text. She opened it to see a picture from Harper, her newborn daughter, Camila, peacefully sleeping in a hospital bassinet in Manhattan. The caption read, "Camila's first checkup. Clean bill of health. Thank you for the specialist rec. She's doing great." Cassian glanced at the message. "That support group you suggested seems to be helping." Sierra nodded. Her relationship with Harper was still delicate, more distant friends than close family, but it was something, a fragile something born of accountability and effort. She's in therapy twice a week now, finally working through things, not running from them. That's all anyone can ask. Luna finished her bottle, and Cassian took her gently, moving to burp her with a confidence that had once been shaky. Watching him now still made Sierra's heart flutter. This man who had fought through loss to build something new with them. "The mother support network is growing," she said, watching him. 3 new chapters across Oregon. Turns out, a lot of women needed to hear they're not alone. "Like someone who walked out of her wedding 7 months ago," he said, gray eyes shining with love and pride. "Like a doctor who finally realized it's okay to love again," she replied softly. The morning sun caught his left hand as he patted Luna's back. No wedding ring now, but something more meaningful. A future not feared, but chosen. A knock broke the quiet. Sierra opened the door to find Donna standing there. Her mother's usual polished appearance was softened by time, and perhaps reflection. She held up a brown paper bag. "I brought breakfast," she said, her voice tentative. "If that's okay." It had taken months of boundary setting, of hard conversations, of letting go, to reach this point. But Donna was learning that love and control were not the same thing. "Come meet your granddaughter," Sierra said, stepping aside. As Donna stepped in and her face lit up at the sight of Luna, Sierra felt the truth settle inside her like sunlight. Some wounds healed slower than others. Some relationships needed to break completely before they could be rebuilt. But here, in this warm apartment with a view of a river that changed with the seasons, surrounded by forgiveness, healing, and new beginnings, Sierra finally had everything she needed. Sierra found her truth later that night. After Luna had drifted off in her crib and Donna had gone home, Sierra stood by the window, watching stars shimmer across the surface of the Willamette River. Cassian's arms wrapped around her from behind, and she leaned into him. "No regrets?" he asked quietly. She thought about the chapel she'd walked away from. A place of polished lies. The clinic where she'd found real love. The daughter who carried both their strengths. Her fingers twitched, almost snapping, but instead she laced them through his. "Only the ones that brought me here," she answered. "Sometimes," she said, "you have to walk through fire to find your way home." He turned her gently, his hands cupping her face. "Speaking of home, the house by the lake?" The offer was accepted. Sierra's heart filled to the brim. A place of their own, a home for Luna to grow. A space for dreams. Finally theirs. Really? She breathed. Really? He smiled, then kissed her. The kind of kiss that said, "This is where everything begins." From the nursery, Luna let out a soft coo in her sleep. Outside, the lake gently lapped at the shore, constant and shifting, like love, like life, like the kind of future that only opens when you finally choose yourself. "With you," Sierra whispered, "always." The night wrapped around them like a promise, not written in vows or etched in gold, but lived in quiet courage, in messy beginnings, in the hearts of two people who had learned. Sometimes falling apart is just the first step to falling together. And down the hall, in a room filled with soft lullabies and stars on the ceiling, their daughter slept. Living proof that the best beginnings often rise from the hardest endings. 2 years later, the lakeside garden burst with wild summer blooms. Guests gathered under a white arch strung with local wildflowers, simple and stunning. Sierra and Cassian stood hand in hand, exchanging quiet vows. Their daughter, Luna, now 2 years old, toddled happily around them, enchanted by the flowing lace of her mother's bohemian dress. No grand chapel, no headlines or staged photographs, just truth, just love. And the gentle sound of the Willamette River behind them, steady as their promises. In the small circle of guests, Donna dabbed at her eyes, finally understanding that real love didn't need to be controlled. Beside her, Harper sat with Camila, now a toddler in a matching sundress. The cousins weren't close, but they'd found peace. A quiet, steady peace, strengthened by the innocent bond of their daughters. News had come the previous week. Jasper had married a political consultant in D.C. A strategic alliance, unsurprising. The Carr family had regained some influence, though their grip in Oregon had waned, checked by transparency, regulation, and truth. After the ceremony, as twilight painted the lake in shades of honey and gold, Sierra stood for a moment alone on the dock. She hadn't snapped her fingers in months. Behind her, she could hear Luna giggling as Cassian spun her around on the dance floor they'd set up on the lawn. The Portland Women's Health Center had expanded, offering programs for mothers from all walks of life. And Sierra? She'd built something better than a storybook ending. She'd built a life. Sierra's support network had now expanded across 3 states, helping women rediscover their strength through life's toughest transitions. A soft step on the dock signaled Harper's approach. She handed Sierra a glass of champagne. Her own was filled with sparkling water, thanks to her second pregnancy. This one was different. Planned, hoped for, with a man who loved her completely, scars and all. "Full circle," Harper said, eyes on the sunset. "Not quite," Sierra replied with a gentle smile. "Circles just repeat. We're all moving forward." In the distance, a loon called out across the river, its echo dancing over the water like nature's own celebration. From the garden came laughter, music, and the warm hum of family, not born of obligation but chosen in love. And in that moment, as day became dusk and the past blurred into a brighter future, Sierra knew. Every broken road had led exactly where it was meant to go. Sometimes, happy endings don't look the way we imagined. Sometimes they're better. Now imagine yourself in Sierra's shoes. You discover betrayal, not just any betrayal, but moments before your wedding. You're pregnant. Your world is unraveling in real time. Would you have the strength to expose the truth publicly? Or would you choose a quieter path? Think beyond the heartbreak. Think about your family's reaction, societal judgment, financial pressure, and above all, the emotional toll while carrying a child. What would you do? We want to hear from you. Your voice matters. Leave your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed today's story, give it a like. It really helps support the channel. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss what's coming next. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next story.